Hey there, and welcome back to Adulting 101 Academy. I'm your host, Josh, and today we're diving into a topic that is both exciting and daunting, and that's moving from one state to another. Now, whether you're moving because of a job or school, or you just want a fresh start, I've got you covered with some essential tips that I've learned along the way to help the transition become as smooth and as stress-free as it really can be. Like I said, guys, my name is Josh, and this is a topic that actually is near and dear to my heart because I've actually had to move from state to state at times. I know when I was in college, I moved from Washington to Missouri for a year for college, and then I moved back to Washington. So, moving back home was a little bit easier. Family was there, most of my stuff was there. But also, once I got married, my wife and I decided to move to Oregon. So, moving from Washington to Oregon, their neighboring states, wasn't too far away. It was only like hour and a half, 2 hours from where we live. So, not a big change. But recently, in the last 3 years, my family moved from Washington State to North Dakota. And that was a lot different because it wasn't just myself, it wasn't just me and my wife. It was both my wife and I and our two daughters. So there was a lot more of us, a lot more stuff that had to be moved, and a lot of questions and things we had to figure out that, made things a little more challenging. First thing that made it challenging is I had never been to North Dakota before in my life. So not only was I moving to a new state, I was moving to a state I'd never even been to before. The first time I ever stepped foot in North Dakota was the day I got here, got into a motel, the next day got a rental. So, there's a lot of things that I've learned and discovered in this that I hopefully can share with you and help you out, kind of get things moving and, make things a little bit easier for whoever else has to go through a similar situation. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. The first thing you do when you're planning your move is research where you're going. Now, even though I had never been to North Dakota, we did a ton of research on what cities to look at, where to get jobs, school districts, all those type of things, because North Dakota wasn't our only option. We were looking at other states like Utah and Texas. We were looking at Arizona as well. So we were looking at a lot of different places to try and move out of Washington. In the end, obviously, North Dakota had the best choices for us. Plus, it was also the location where we both got jobs the quickest that paid our bills and were in areas that we were interested in. So we did do a lot of research. We watched videos. In fact, going to YouTube and just typing in the state you're looking at or the city you're looking at was actually a huge help for us because one of the things we were worried about was that we would come to a city where there just wasn't anything. There wasn't a good food scene, wasn't places to shop. And when we started looking at Bismarck, we got on and found that, yeah, there's not necessarily a lot of local places. There's a lot of chain restaurants, but it's places that we liked, places that were familiar to us. And then shopping wise, it actually is pretty good shopping compared to the city we were in beforehand in Washington. We actually have a lot of options here. And a part of that is because in North Dakota, if you've never been here before, Bismarck, being one of the largest cities in the state, obviously being the capital, is an hour and a half from any other city. And that's true for pretty much every city here in North Dakota. You don't have cities that are close to each other, really. You have to drive an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 or 3 hours to get to another city of substance, of size. So for us here in Bismarck, they've got to have shopping. They've got to have things we need here because we don't want to drive the 3 hours to Fargo, the 2 hours to Dickinson, or hour and a half to Minot. We got to have the stuff here we need. So that made it nice. And we understood that as we were doing research. The next thing to look at as you're doing research is cost of living. I will be completely honest with you. California, going to live there is not going to be the same as even living in somewhere like Arizona, which is right next door to California. Living in different states can add a lot of cost. Gas right now on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, is 5, 6, even $7 at places. Here in North Dakota, it's 2.99 right now. It's about half the price. My parents, 2 summers ago, came over to visit us and they had budgeted a certain amount of money for gas. And because we were going down to a theme park, we were going to have a nice little vacation. And when my dad got to this area, he realized how much money they were going to save compared to what he was budgeting because we were $2 cheaper at the time than what it was back home. So that makes a big difference where you live. Now, there are some things here in North Dakota that costs more because we are kind of a secluded state in a way, but we're also not too far away. I mean, we have Minnesota near us. We're not far from other states. So we get our stuff pretty well, but our cost of living isn't very high. It's not bad at all. I had a 1,000 square foot home in Washington, and it sold for I think like 200,000. And here I am in North Dakota with a 300 or 3,000 square foot home that we paid 350 for, 380, something like that. So we got triple the size for less than double the cost. So think about that as you're looking around trying to figure out what you want. But also, if you have a family, you got to research schools. Schools and neighborhoods are a big deal. The next thing you need to do when you're planning is plan your timeline, especially if you have a job that you're going to be starting somewhere in a new state. That's something you've really got to plan out with them. Are you going to do the first week in person? Are you going to do some remote? All those things, talk with your future employers, see what they want. For when I moved to North Dakota, my employer, my boss, which is actually the same as my wife's at the time, my boss wanted me here early on because of my position. I was a director. I needed to get here and get to see people face to face and start doing that stuff. Whereas my wife did marketing, still does marketing. She was able to start working on things and researching things from home before she moved out here. So I actually came here first, and then a couple weeks later, her and the girls moved out here as well. The next thing you need to worry about is your budget. After you've kind of planned out how long it's going to take you and how much time you have, this is when you start figuring out costs. Because if you have enough time where you can get a U-Haul and you can load it yourself, drive it across and unload it yourself, that can save you some money. We didn't have that option. We actually had to get movers. So we actually had a truck come, we loaded the truck and then they drove it for us and then we unloaded it. And that worked out pretty well, to be honest. It cost a little bit more, but it was nice not having to drive the stuff across. I still could drive my vehicle, which made it easier to have to worry about towing, anything like that. So do kind of figure in your costs. I know when I came across, I had to one, pay for food, I had to pay for gas, had to pay for a place to stay because it's more than a 1 day drive to get to North Dakota from where I was at. So you got to budget all that stuff in, and you also got to budget in, where you're going to live when you get here. Make sure you have enough for first month, last month's deposit if you're renting. If you're buying a house, you'll be going through all that process as well. But really plan and budget things out. Know your timeline, how much time you have to get stuff loaded, unloaded, that type of stuff. Before you move, though, one of the things I recommend is declutter your house you're already in, your apartment. Do a garage sale, donate stuff, get rid of stuff, sell stuff. The less you have to take with you, the better. Even furniture wise, if you have the ability to get rid of the furniture you currently have, and then move and then buy new furniture where you're at, that is the ideal way to go. Now, granted, that costs money. Not everybody can do that. We didn't do that. We had to bring our furniture and our appliances for the most part. Our fridge, we didn't have to bring that because there was a fridge in the house here, stove as well. But we brought our washer and dryer, we brought our couches, we brought our beds, all that type of stuff. So we needed to have that stuff. But the more you can sell, the more you can not have to pack, the better it is. When you're packing, though, make sure you label your boxes, label everything, and don't just mix things together. Don't take stuff from a bedroom and then a bathroom and your living room, put them all in the same box or tote. One tote in each room, fill it up. Then get the next tote and do that. So that way you know what you have. Now, one of the things I did like to do is I had all of our clothes packed into bags. And the reason we did that is because we could throw bags in the vehicles and I could drive that across. So when everyone got here and when we were ready to go, our clothes, we didn't have to worry about unpacking things. They were easy to get to. But you got to label your boxes, even if it's just something as simple as saying bedroom one, living room, garage, that type of stuff. It'll help you out because let's say you get into your new house. Say you moved across the country, you're in the new house, you've unloaded everything into the garage, and now you're trying to find a certain utensil or certain pans you need for cooking, and you don't have anything labeled, you're going to be searching through every single box. But if you have a stack of boxes that say kitchen or cooking utensils, there you go. It saves you a lot of time, makes things a lot easier, and doing that. Also, make sure you use bubble wrap. There are a lot of things, glass things that you may have that could break, lights, wrap them up as best you can, secure them, protect them, do what you have to do so that way your items aren't broken. Because if they're broken, you could have just left them behind, not had to pack them at that point. And then the essential boxes, you can mark those different ways. I know we had different totes and different boxes that came across, and we knew that certain things were a little more important. So we knew, like I said, our clothes were all in bags. So it was really easy to grab those bags and throw them in each person's room because those are the same bags we pretty much use for traveling. When we go on vacation, we use a lot of those same bags. We knew whose was whose, and we just packed it as tight as we could. Now, when you're making the move, we talked about this, knowing your budget, and that will determine whether or not you need to hire movers, rent a truck, or just kind of do things on your own. When we moved from Washington down to Oregon, once again, it was only about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from my parents lived. All of our stuff was at my parents' house. So we didn't need to hire movers. We didn't need to do all that stuff. We loaded stuff into trucks and went. We did get a U-Haul just because we had some big stuff. But really, we were able to go back and forth and do loads from time to time to make it easier. When we went back to visit, because we went back and forth every month and we'd load up some more stuff, throw it in the car and take it down. So do that type of stuff. Now, if you are hiring movers or a truck to drive your stuff across, you got to figure out how you're going to get from point A to point B. Now, for me, it was easy. I was in the car, I drove across, and the truck met us there about a week later because my wife was still back in Washington. But they had to find a way to get there because we only had one car at that point. So my wife and daughters had to fly to Bismarck, which super nice. We live in Bismarck. Bismarck has an airport. I just drove over and picked them up. It was nice and easy. So that was good, but we had to plan all that. We had to plan, you know, where we were going, what time we needed to leave, what time we needed to be there by. We got to make sure we're there before the truck got there and all that stuff. So plan out time things. It's once again, it's all about timing, budgeting. That's what 90% of a move really is. It's packing, paying, and move and going. That's the type of thing. Another big thing to really focus on is utilities. If you have a house, an apartment, make sure you're taking your name off the utilities. And when you get to your new location, make sure you're putting your name back onto the utilities for whoever the provider is. So that is a big thing. If you don't get utilities in your name, they get shut off really fast because they don't think anybody's using them or not supposed to be using them. So do that, take care of it first day or two, right off the bat. A lot of times, if you're renting a house or renting an apartment, even they will give you a day or two grace period because it's under the ownership of the company or the business that is renting to you. So you have a day or two, that's fine. But like internet, you won't have internet, you won't have those type of things. Get those going right away so that way you are feeling more at home. If you don't have internet, you're not able to watch TV, not able to do things you're accustomed to doing, like even just checking, YouTube or checking email. Having internet can be a simple thing that makes you feel more at home. So get those done as fast as possible. And then the last thing for moving that I recommend is really settling into your new place. First of all, unpack strategically. This is huge. Make sure you are putting boxes in the rooms they're supposed to go to, and then unpack things that are the highest priority. Bedroom stuff, high priority. Kitchen stuff, also high priority. Now, making sure you go through and get like your TV and DVD player, that could be a high priority. Maybe you get there and you just want to relax and you have whatever you need to just kind of lay down and watch a movie with your family. Get the TV out there, get the DVD player out there, watch a show, do that. But really be strategic. The garage is not the first thing you need to unpack. It may be important, you may have tools, but that's not the first thing to focus on. Really make sure you're going after areas that will help you feel more at home. And the bedroom, right off the bat, having a good bed, pillows, blankets, your clothes ready to go, that will help you feel more at home. Next thing you want to do when you get to a new place, explore the neighborhood, drive around. The first day that I got here into Bismarck, I drove for about 4 hours just going up and down streets, finding restaurants, finding stores, going into stores. I was just kind of going everywhere and anywhere, trying to learn directions so I knew where things were. Um, there we go. And so really it's just a matter of figuring out where things are and, knowing the streets. That's a big thing. If you know where you're at, if feels more like home. And that is going to make a big difference. A lot of people get homesick when they move and then, they want to move back, but you're not able to do that. Once you've moved, you move. So make sure you know where things are, parks, stores, restaurants. I would recommend even the first day or two that you're in your new city that you go out to eat. You go out to eat for lunch, you go out to eat for dinner, try new places, see what they have, find a new favorite restaurant that can be kind of a helpful, comforting thing. When I got to Bismarck, and I know I'm using my examples a lot, but this is what I've lived through. We have a Sicky's Bar and Grill, which I know they have those in Florida and they have them in obviously North Dakota, a lot of other states as well. The very first day, full day that I was here, I went there for lunch. It was a place I'd never been to before. I wanted a good hamburger, something like that. Got in there, and it was a fun place I enjoyed when my family got in town. That's the first place I took them. Hey, let's go check this place out. I really liked it. And now it's become one of our favorite places. We don't go there a whole lot because it is expensive sit-down restaurant, but it's worth it. When we do go, it's fun. It's a good place to go. And the next thing, and this is something that I had to get used to, and that was meeting my neighbors. Back in Washington, I didn't know my neighbors. I'd met like one or two of them, and that was about it. We didn't really talk to our neighbors. We didn't really do stuff with them. We kind of kept our distance because that kind of was how Washington was and is. I know there's a lot of other states like that, but North Dakota is not like that. So, one of the things you can do, depending on where you move, now if you're going to a place that you feel is somewhat unsafe, maybe you aren't out walking around talking to your neighbors, but you do want to get to know your neighbors just so they know who you are, whether or not you're supposed to be there, that type of stuff. But go talk to your neighbors, say hello, introduce yourself. You'd be surprised how nice it is to know that when you're maybe gone for a weekend, your neighbors know, hey, we don't see them. If someone we don't recognize is there, we need to probably check on things or call the cops. So it does help having neighbors who watch out for you, you watch out for them, that type of stuff. But introduce yourself and then also engage in the community. Go find activities. Like I said, here in North Dakota, you got to drive hour and a half, 2 hours to go find other cities. It takes a while. So each city does a lot of little things to do throughout the year. Here in Bismarck, they've got a parade just for local high school and middle school bands. They do it every year. They just meet at the Capitol and they march down the street and people turn out in droves for that. We have our normal 4th of July ones, stuff like that, but really there's a lot of small special events that happen all throughout the year that allow you to be engaged in the community. You may not know people there, but you still can engage in the community and be part of activities and that type of stuff. So a lot of different things to do. I do encourage you to, if you get to a new place, if you are a person who goes to church, find a church, introduce yourself, meet people. If you have certain hobbies, go get involved in similar things. You have kids who do sports, sign them up for sports and, volunteer to help or do something. Help get plugged in and get communicating with other people. It will help you make you feel like you're at home after the move. But guys, once again, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot more to moving than that. That's just kind of the basic overview, some tips I would recommend. But there's even more to do. Do your research on even how to move. That helps out a lot as well. And just be, intentional about trying to be successful with your move. Be intentional with finding jobs, with finding friends, meeting new people, finding restaurants, stores, all that stuff. So, guys, thank you for listening. My name is Josh. This is Adulting 101 Academy. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and at times, go enjoy being a kid as well. Talk to you guys later.